It's been a complicated and confusing few years in the marketplace, to say the least. First, we noticed companies were laying off boomers and Gen X workers, and the plan was to go all in on Gen Z. You know, the young, tech savvy, fresh out of college crowd. But as I've covered extensively on this channel, Gen Z has been fired in record numbers. So the question is, who are companies hiring now? Well, if you happen to be in the Gen X or even older millennial crowd, you're going to want to stick around and you're going to want to find out. And then Gen Z, stick with us too, because all hope isn't lost for you. I've got some advice that I think is going to be helpful. So let's go. So before we talk about what's happening right now, I think we ought to take a look back at how we got to where we are. See, when the pandemic reshaped the workforce in 2020, many companies just leaned into this cost-cutting mindset. So older employees, those in the boomer crowd, and even some in the older Gen X crowd, they were the first out the door. Employers believed that those decisions were good for several reasons. They believed that many in that age group, especially the boomers, they were close to retirement anyway, so they just kind of expedited the retirement that was on the way. This crowd was also more expensive because they had higher salaries and they had better benefits. And naturally, they were also harder, it just is, to retrain on new systems, new software, and fresh ideas. So their answer, lean into a younger generation. See, employers thought, well, this is it. This is the workforce of the future. They're all digital natives. They were born with smartphones in their hands. They're less expensive, and they can be easily trained on all of the latest and the greatest systems. Now, what seemed like a good idea on paper, at least for them, not the boomers or the Gen Xers, it didn't play out that way in real life. See, managers fired Gen Z workers in record numbers. And Gen Z has left such a bad first impression that many companies have admitted that they refuse to hire any more of them. Many of you have said that in the comments on this channel. And what's even more surprising is the hiring trends in the tech industry, where Gen Z should have been right at home. According to Business Insider, entry-level hiring has dropped by more than 50% compared to before the pandemic. Now, that's more than just a hiring slump. That is a landslide. So if you're in the Gen Z crowd, you're going to want to hang out with me because I'm going to give you some of the top complaints that employers have so that you'll know what they're thinking, and I'm going to offer some ways that you can respond. But before we dig into that, I want to answer the question we discussed when we first started this conversation. Who are companies hiring now? Well, if you're in the Gen X and older millennial crowd, I've got really good news for you. You guys are making a comeback. Employers are actually realizing that they made a big mistake simply trying to cut corners. They realize that experienced, emotional intelligence, all of that actually matters. To have people to value their experience and a little emotional intelligence, turns out it goes a long way. They were reminded of the value of knowing how to navigate office politics, lead teams, and handle crisis. It just comes down to experience. Now, these are all important skills that Gen Z just hasn't had the time or the experience to learn yet. So this is a strategy that many employers are taking now. And I'm just going to give you a few things that we see shifting and that are happening. One thing is that they are embracing skills over age. The job market is shifting toward a skills-based hiring, and I think that's important. Employees are asking questions like, can you think critically? Can you adapt to different environments and circumstances? And can you lead? AT&T is a good example of this. In August, I actually covered the leaked AT&T memo from the CEO, where he stated that the measuring stick for their organization was going to change. It would now be capability, contribution, and commitment. Those were the standards that they were going to look at for people. What could you do? What did you contribute? What were you capable of? See, I think personally, this is an exciting shift. I think it's good to see. I think it's one personally that should have never gone away to begin with. And the reason is that it opens doors for everyone. It opens the opportunity for anyone who can contribute, who has skills and something to offer, regardless of your generation. And then the second thing that we see, strategy two, they're using generational teams. They're leaning into teams that are multi-generational. The smart companies are building these teams and understand that Gen Z brings innovation, they bring creativity, and they really do have a pulse on culture and where culture is heading. But they also know that Gen X and Millennials, they bring wisdom, they bring stability, and they bring experience that only comes from just time in the trenches. You've been there, you've done that, you have some experience. And it's not one or the other. This is the most encouraging thing. The trend is that it's not just one group or the other group, it's both. And that's the secret. I say it a lot on our conversations. It's balance. And when you put these generations side by side, I think something powerful happens. Gen Z pushes the team to think differently, and while Gen X, Millennials, they keep the team grounded in what works. So building these teams full of different experiences, backgrounds, and viewpoints is important. The third strategy we see is training and mentorship. Just leaning into investing in the people that you employ. One of the best outcomes of the last few years has been this renewed emphasis on investing in the continued education of employees. Forward-thinking employers are stepping up to help older generations stay up to date with new technologies, the evolving workplace, the different cultures, and then the rapidly changing systems. And at the same time, they're investing in Gen Z. So instead of just throwing Gen Z away, they're focusing on leadership development, communication, and soft skills, all things that are incredibly important. And it really should be, I think, common sense to provide training that impacts every employee. Because regardless of age or experience, because here's the thing, everyone is learning and growing, then everyone is getting better. Every person can contribute longer and in a much more impactful way when everyone continues to grow, to adapt, and to learn. And when everyone is doing that, everybody's getting better. And can you guess what the results are when this happens? You have a place where everyone loves to work. So this is great news for generations that were being tossed out. I think this should be encouraging to the older generations who were being passed over. But what about Gen Z? Well, I told you that I would share why employers are dissatisfied with your generation. So here it goes. Reason one is one of the first things is a lack of initiative. We see this and hear this over and over again. About half of managers say that Gen Z workers just don't have enough drive. They're waiting for direction instead of taking it upon themselves to problem solve. And employers see that as a big red flag. They want people who take initiative. And I say this a lot, and I talked about it on this channel about going above and beyond. I think it's important. Reason two is soft skills. And this is one that comes up over and over again. It's communication, it's professionalism, it's how to handle feedback. All of these things are important. Of the 75% of companies that said they weren't happy with their Gen Z hires, a lot of it just came down to soft skills, being able to take some feedback, take some direction, to be able to be coached and to train. It's a really big deal. And then another reason is expectations. Gen Z, listen to me, you're walking into interviews and you're asking for salaries that don't match your experience. I understand that you earned a degree, but you don't have the experience yet. And Gen Zers are asking for high pay, fast promotions, but the employers that you're asking from, they just feel like your skills aren't there yet. And it's not your fault, you just don't have the experience. Another one, and this is a big one, is ghosting. And this one cracks me up. Not only do some Gen Zers ghost interviews and job offers, they've coined a new term for it. It's called career catfishing. And about 34% of Gen Z admit to doing this. Just imagine you're ghosting a date, but instead of a date, you're ghosting your place of employment. So these are some of the main reasons that employers are saying, hey, Gen Z, we're struggling with you. But now that we've covered the overall condition of hiring for all generations, some positive and some not so much, let's get some practical application for everybody. I'm going to cover everyone in this so that everyone knows some tips of some things that you can do. So if you're Gen Z, you need to work on your soft skills. You need to learn to communicate. You need to learn to handle feedback. You need to learn to show some initiative. You need to be realistic about pay and promotions. Big salaries, the things that you want, they come with big responsibilities. You got to step up to the plate and earn your way. Don't ghost. Even if you're not interested, send them an email. Give them a call. Professionalism matters. Another thing that I would tell you to do is seek mentorship. Look for people who are older than you, who have gone or are where you want to be, and ask them to teach you, to guide you, and to help you get there. I'm telling you, this will fast track your career growth and your success. Gen Z, there's hope. You just need to work on these things. And then if you're a hiring manager, if you're someone who is hiring, let me encourage you in this. Don't write off Gen Z. I hear so many of you in the comments on our conversations that we have on this channel, and you have some strong opinions about Gen Z. You've had some bad experiences, and I'm just telling you, I understand, but if you're a leader, you raise the bar, you set the standard. So don't write them off, but instead coach them. Pair them with some experienced team members. You can see the ones who really want to work for it and who really want to earn their way. So help them. Hire for learning potential, not just for perfect resumes. So when you see a young Gen Z come in, don't hire them for where they are today. Hire them for where you can take them tomorrow. Not who they are, but who they can be. And you can see it. You can see the potential. You just have to work in it. And then I would also say, hey, work on those blended teams. You know, we're seeing this trend where we're valuing every generation. We'll work on blending teams that bring out the best in everybody. And because of that, all of your teams will be healthier. And then if you're a Gen X or you're a millennial crowd, this is your time. This is your moment. Your mix of experience with maturity is exactly what companies are looking for. So don't underestimate the value that you bring. I know you've had a bad experience. I know you were tossed to the side. I know that you were overlooked, but everyone has realized we've got to have balance to this. So this opens up an incredible opportunity for you. So this is the bottom line. I think this is the lesson for everybody, especially those who are looking to hire. It's not about age. It's about skills. It's about someone's attitude. It's about how well you can fit into a team. It's about your ability to learn. So stop looking for the perfect generation and just start building the perfect mix of generations. And if you work all of these things together, I think we can have a healthier, more purpose-filled, and passionate work environments where people want to be and find fulfillment in what we do each and every day. Hey, if this video was helpful, will you do me a favor? I want you to like it, I want you to share it, and I want you to subscribe to the channel. And I want to say, if you need some help with the culture or the health of your teams or your organization, I would be honored if you would check me out at brandonmatthews.com because I would love to help. I'm passionate about helping people love where they work, the work they do, and who they work with. And remember, it's not about the generation that you're in, it's about the value that you bring. I'll see you on the next one.